Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. And this is our NXT review. And guys, tonight's episode of NXT, gears finally really got turning post Brooklyn 2. Seemed like a really fun episode of NXT. Some great in-ring action. I don't really think much was furthered storyline-wise. So it was a very interesting Wednesday night. We had Lucha Underground, which I think had far more emphasis on story, and NXT, which had far more emphasis on in-ring. But I think both ended up being great products tonight. I quite enjoyed NXT. What did you think about it, partner?
Yeah, NXT tonight really, I know that technically we are getting new content and we're getting, it's not like we're just getting recast of everything, but it still feels like we're more in the post-Brooklyn Fallout phase than let's move on to what comes next phase.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this seems especially evident in the NXT Championship picture, at least to me, because the emphasis still really seems to be that we're in the era of strong style, and it seems like we're still in the afterglow of Nakamura's championship win when I want him to be like in the thick of it now, which I know he will be soon. We just got to be patient. But yeah, it just still seems like this is an extension of that celebration, especially given who his opponent was tonight, which we'll get to. But yeah, not a bad episode by any means.
I feel like I want the Nakamura championship narrative to be, oh, well, there was no way he was ever going to hold it for more than just a couple of months because of just how much talent there was at NXT at the time. Everyone was beating down his door.
Exactly. And when you look at the talent that steps up tonight, I mean, not that that narrative won't play out. In fact, maybe it even gives credence that it will, because you never know who's going to step up and try and challenge Nakamura. But yeah, I don't really know what they're going to do with it. But regardless, let's get right into it with our first segment, Heat of the Night. I've got 0 heats of the night tonight, 0 nitpicks. I enjoyed myself. Partner, do you have any complaints you want to air out?
No complaints. I agree. This was a solid show. And really, I feel like there wasn't really enough going on with this show for me to have enough time to really complain about anything.
And I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. So with that said, let us get right into our NXT review. And we open up with tag team action. TM61, Thorne and Miller against Arya Daivari. And to me, one of the breakouts of the Cruiserweight Classic, and I know you're big on him too, Tony Nese. This was a really fun opener, dude. What'd you think?
Nese is just awesome to watch. He is just a pleasure to watch. I know you became a fast fan of Arya Daivari in his match against Toho Lun. And, I mean, TM61, really, they're just the freaking... They've only been around for a few months, and already it feels like they are like the sort of steadfast, consistent workhorses of the NXT tag division, you know?
You know, it's funny because if I'm really being honest, like I respect TM61. I think they're great at their craft, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be here. But I think they're kind of in that Sami Zayn category for me, where I respect them immensely and I respect what they've done. But I just kind of feel a disconnect watching them. I thought Arya Daivari and Tony Nese were the far more interesting team to me. I really liked how those two worked together.
I mean, all 4 guys I thought looked really good tonight as far as, getting a combination of everything. They got the crowd into it. I think, I think that all 4 guys did really well tonight. All 4 guys looked strong and credible, and I think that the big problem with TM61 right now is that they haven't really had a true challenge yet, and the one challenge they have had in the Authors of Pain, they got pretty well their asses handed to them. So, it's kind of, there's no gray area with TM61. They're either going to kind of sweep through their opponents or get swept.
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting observation you make, and it's funny because thinking back, I think the 2 matches from TM61 that I've enjoyed the most and I've really appreciated their work the most in One against the Revival because they're the freaking NXT Tag Team Champions, and then the second one being what you noted, them versus AOP, which I thought was one of their best outings as a team. This was not bad, though. Again, very fun opener. All four guys really brought it. I mean, Arya Daivari breaking out a frog splash. Tony Nese, let me tell you, when I look at him, I really see the future. I mean, first of all, what a physique. And I think you even said this to your credit when we were covering the episode of the Cruiserweight Classic. I want to say that was episode 7 where Nese faced Kendrick, either 7 or 6, somewhere around there. And you said, like, he's like Neville with the physique and the aerial ability, but the biggest difference is, and this is a big difference in the WWE landscape, Tony Nese has the look from the top down, whereas Neville does have that awkward face. And we're not trying to be mean-spirited about it, but, you know, it is kind of a thing that we've brought up in the past. Tony Nese looks like you chiseled him out of goddamn stone with the ability to go with it. I think he has a very high ceiling. I think the world of the guy. Great to see him in the ring again, and I hope we see him on NXT more as a regular in singles action.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully Nese sticks around. I'm sure you're hoping Daivari also sticks around because I know you like him a lot more than I do.
Oh, certainly.
I don't dislike him. I'm just not, blown away by him like you are.
Certainly. I mean, my thing is what I'd love to see from Arya Daivari, because I loved him in the Cruiserweight Classic against Ho Ho Lun. I thought he was great. Already liked him more than his brother Daivari. And but the thing is, what I'll give his brother Daivari credit for is I always thought like he had a great character. And even in the gray, maybe it wasn't multidimensional, but it spoke to something that worked. And it still speaks to something that works. If he was to come back tomorrow and do the anti-Western world rhetoric and, the Middle East, like we're the bit, like that would still strike a chord today. In fact, maybe even more so given our political and social climate. What I'm really looking for with Arya Daivari, if he shows up more and maybe he becomes a regular on NXT, I don't know, get a character. I want to hear promos. I want to see what he brings to the fight. Hopefully he would differentiate himself from his brother. But yeah, I think in ring, there's definitely an upside there. I like his look. Again, I love the fact that these two guys teamed tonight because I think the world of both guys. In the end, though, TM61 didn't really think the world of Arya Daivari because he ended up going to Thunder Valley and Thorne and Miller pick up the win.
Yeah, man. Thorne and Miller, Thunder Valley, they handled their business as expected. I will say I like that commentary kind of painted this more as, oh, well, Nese and Daivari, this is their first time teaming up, so it makes sense that TM61 would be able to beat them in a tag match because that really does keep everyone credible.
Yes, great point. Great point. I completely agree. Yeah, a competitive outing, and TM61 does get the win. With that said, is there anything else you want to say about this match?
I don't think so, no.
All right, we can move on. What came after this, partner?
After this, we had an interview. Tom Phillips had like a sit-down interview with Asuka. And really, it's kind of paint by numbers at this point. You pretty much, Asuka's promos aren't exactly unpredictable. She talks about how she respects Bayley, and Bayley fought hard, but I fought harder than her, and all that stuff. And then Tom Phillips asked if she thinks anyone is ready to take her on for that NXT Women's Championship, and she speaks in Japanese. And it's weird because if you would just hear her speaking like that, you wouldn't. It's tough to identify the language because she speaks with an Osaka accent, and the Japanese that most Americans are used to hearing and identifying is more mainland Japanese.
Right.
And that's kind of what Nakamura and I think Hideo also both speak. But Asuka has that Osaka, tint on her accent, and it makes it sound like a completely different language. It's weird, but yeah, she does a lot of visceral, angry sounding Japanese ranting, I guess. And then it comes down to no one is ready to face Asuka.
Yes. Still a very confident champion, and why shouldn't she be? She's still undefeated. She's still got the title. Man, I'm hoping Ember Moon comes knocking on her door soon, and we'll get to Ember Moon in a moment. Man, I'm just licking my chops for that. But great promo from Asuka. Like, again, with characters like Asuka, I'm never looking for soliloquies. I'm never looking for her to bare her soul on a microphone. I think this works. She's got the streak, she's got the title, and she just reaffirms that with her confidence. That's all I want. You know, I did struggle a little bit to understand her at times, but I get that it's a transitional period. I mean, I'm sure she'd be laughing at me if I was transitioning from speaking English to trying to speak Japanese. So, you know, I'll have all the patience in the world for her and Shinsuke and Hideo. And, yeah, good stuff here.
Yeah. All right. So then we got our weird, not even sure what's going on here, Steve Cutler interview. Really angry. Like, is he supposed to be like a xenophobic heel who just hates foreigners? Like, he talks about how Nakamura didn't sacrifice anything to get here. I guess sacrificing a top 3 spot in the second biggest wrestling company in the world and, you know, just leaving his entire life behind doesn't count as sacrifice here. Cutler talks about Nakamura not sacrificing anything to get here and then goes on to demand respect.
Yeah, you know, I gotta be honest, only 2 weeks in, because I feel like this was one thing that NXT followed up on, because wasn't Steve Cutler's, like, repackaged debut last week? And 2 weeks in...
Well, no, I feel like he's been repackaged for longer than that, but you might be right.
But regardless, like, because it feels relatively new to me, so just going off that basis, like, I'm already disappointed, because he did the whole... You know, I don't care if you like me. I don't care if you love me. And I damn sure don't care if you hate me. Like, you said the same thing last week. Now, I get if it's a catchphrase and you want it to catch on. But I really feel like, I don't know, the attack on Nakamura seemed way too generic. Maybe I was expecting too much of Steve Cutler because, again, you know, maybe he's still learning, you know, finding his groove. But then it just seemed weird because he just rehashed what he said last week. And I'm just like, okay, you know, kind of spinning our wheels here. So it was whatever. And, you know, we all know what's going to happen to Steve Cutler, so we might as well let him have his promo time.
Yeah, I mean, spinning wheels kind of seems like the theme of the night, doesn't it?
I mean, a little bit, yeah. Because I think they're just waiting for something, whatever that is.
Yeah, because, like, don't get me wrong, this was an entertaining episode of NXT, but we got really no progression. Like, the only real news that we got to look forward to in the future out of this episode was regarding next week's live CWC, not actually something to do with NXT.
Exactly. Yeah, CWC had more progression in an episode of NXT than NXT, like, universe itself did. That was weird.
Because the CWC's live, I think it's a finale next week, is 2 hours if it's going to replace NXT in the 8 o'clock hour for that 1 week only, or if it's going to go from 9 to 11.
Right. Probably go from 9 to 11 if I had to guess.
I wonder.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see about that. But I do agree. And so, yeah, that was Steve Cutler's promo. Anything else you want to say, or can we move on?
Then we had our second match of the night, Leah Vaughn versus Ember Moon.
Yes. Crowd's already taking...
I was going to say, dude, you totally got this. This is all you, brother.
Yeah, crowd really getting behind Ember Moon, it seems, and why shouldn't they? I mean, you should always get behind talent when you see it. Leah Vaughn, you know, it was funny because when Ember Moon made her entrance, Leah Vaughn was kind of looking at her and she was mouthing, "I'm not scared of you," and I'm like, oh, you will be. And then the match started.
Say, yeah, like, oh, that's just adorable, Leah.
Exactly. You know, fun match here. I feel like, you know what, maybe for the first, I'm just thinking about how NXT operates. Hopefully for the first month, you know, maybe it will just be like exhibition matches or whatever for Ember Moon, and then they'll start being those, you know, those whispers like, oh, you know, could she be the one? Could she be in contention for the NXT Championship? And I do think they're going to build her up slowly. And this is one case where I'm like, fuck your slow burn. Get those two in a ring together so they can tear the house down and give one of the better NXT Women's Championship matches in recent memory. Because I'll be honest, like, the two matches Asuka had with Bayley were okay. Like, I didn't hate them, but I'm really looking for that match that just reminds us it's the NXT Women's Championship. And I think these two women can deliver. And yes, there is a lot of bias in that assessment. And I admit that, but I think those two could really tear the house down. So Ember Moon gets the quick win here after some impressive offense, and she wins with the top rope stunner. I don't think they have a formal name for it yet, but they can take their time because I'll just keep calling it what it is, and that's effective. Laid Leah's ass out. And then as Ember Moon was leaving, she was like, that's my ring now. And I'm like, oh, you're so right about everything. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this match.
Yeah, it was wonderful. This was a really... honestly, dude, this might have even been my match of the night. I know it was short, but the other two matches didn't really do much for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, dude, save for Nakamura, which, I mean, no offense to Ember Moon or anybody for that matter, you're not going to compete with Nakamura. Like, the crowd is so...
Nakamura by himself is amazing, but I really didn't care about Steve Cutler in that match. So that made this match, in my eyes, just a little bit better, I think.
And I agree. And the reason I was going to say, like, I really enjoyed this match is because the crowd really enjoyed this match. Like, that is such a vote of confidence that they're already so into the Ember Moon character. That's a great...
The one thing that I fear is that Ember Moon might have Petey Williams syndrome.
Meaning?
Meaning people aren't really watching her matches because they care about her or her matches. They're just watching with bated breath, waiting for that finisher.
You know, and that's a legitimate concern. I will concede to you that is definitely a legitimate concern. And the one thing I will say, if I'm being honest, about Ember Moon, formerly known as Athena, from the little I watched, again, I'm not claiming to be an aficionado, but I actually did a little bit of my homework. I was the Ashton of the group in this one instance. I don't think her mic work has been stellar. I would really like to see her step up while she's in NXT and really work on her promo skills.
About mic work?
Well, I'm just saying, if she's going to make that crowd connection beyond the finisher, I think the character and how she expresses that character is going to be important. Because I agree with you. I think the concern you have is legitimate. So I think we evade that by really having her know, how do you work a microphone? How do you work a crowd into your match, maybe emotionally with your character? Because I love the concept. Again, like, I know we say a lot about Lucha Underground, it's Mortal Kombat-esque. Ember Moon gives me that same vibe. I mean, even the name, I'm just waiting to select it on some character screen. But yeah, you know, her matches could be, oh, hey, you know, the performer herself, you know, she's good, but that finisher, though, and that isn't what it should be about. Because I really do think in ring she's a very well-rounded performer and can do a lot of great things. Character, again, not so much exposure, but from what I have seen, it's not that she's awful, but there's not that pop. You know what I mean? Like, I think, let me put it to you this way. I think anybody could say the stuff that I've seen her say with the same delivery, if not even a little bit better. If I'm really being honest, because I have her best interest, and I do think she needs work in that area. So hopefully she could improve. And then we could kind of avoid that crisis altogether because there's a more fleshed out character in place of that finisher. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know about the mic work. From what I've seen, she's definitely not bad. I would put her, you know, right around average. She's definitely not in like the bottom 30% of talkers amongst the women in WWE. Like, not even just talking about NXT, in the WWE as a whole. Like, she can string comprehensive sentences together and has tolerable delivery, which immediately places her above like 25 to 30% of the women in the WWE. Like, Charlotte, go away. Dana Brooke, go away. You know, Becky Lynch is at top tier, so obviously she's not going to be better than her. Bayley, I would say, is right around the same level as Ember Moon on the mic right now, and look at the freaking connection she had.
Yeah, I would agree. So,
now that I think about it, if anything, I would almost argue that Ember Moon might even be better than Bayley on the mic, because Bayley's never been a good mic worker ever.
No, I don't think. I think with Bayley, the thing was, and this is going to sound so weird, I think her being bad on the mic was almost an endearing quality for the character, because we've always associated Bayley as like that fan first and like that awestruck girl.
Similarly to like a Daniel Bryan, where he never had to be the best on the mic as long as, you know, he was amazing in the ring and what he said on the mic was honest and from the heart.
Right. I think maybe me saying mic work was poor word choice. I just think, like, what I'm really getting at is I do think your concerns are legitimate, and that's why I'm hoping the character is interesting enough and we take it in a direction where people, you know, won't be so wrapped up in that. Because, you know, that is...
Do you think maybe it's more of a character work thing than a mic work thing?
You know, It's really hard to tell because I love how they introduced her, this prophecy of fire and everything. I love the crimson eyes, like the get up and everything. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, right now, I think there's not really much to worry about, but it really would be something if like people were just sitting on their hands for our matches or whatever, and then like the big pop comes for the big finish, the top rope stunner. So they got to give her something. I just don't know what that is. And again, she's only been here, like this is only her second appearance, so we'll see what NXT does. But I'm very much looking forward to taking.
Yeah,
that
I think
journey.
my suggestion is just she kind of has this like schism around her, like this sort of shroud of mystery. But then she gets in the ring, and once the hood comes off, she's pretty much just like any other female wrestler. She's, she smiles, she panders to the crowd, she's character, or she's just another wrestler, I should say.
Right.
Might be sort of a catalyst for the disconnect.
Right. But I get what you're saying.
But who gives a shit? That finisher, though, am I right?
Well, yeah, and then see, there you go. We'll see what NXT does, dude. But yeah, good outing. Ember Moon clearly, building a little bit 2-0 right now, building up a little bit of a streak, wanting to face Asuka down the road. So that was this match. A lot of fun. Anything else you want to say about it?
Asuka is still undefeated, isn't she?
Yeah, Asuka hasn't lost yet.
Okay. Man.
So, anything you want to say about this segment or Asuka or anything related to the women?
For that to get awkward. Anyway, let's move on. Up next, we had a No Way Jose interview, and I really like this guy. He is becoming one of my favorite NXT performers, acts. I don't know what you want to call him, but I think he's great.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, we've already talked about the positives of No Way Jose to death. No need to rehash that here. I think, again, another guy with a ridiculously high ceiling to be something truly great in this business. And yeah, he pretty much says, look, Bobby Roode not the first guy to, talk about the way I look at the way I dress. Am I going to change? No way. And that was pretty much the theme of the promo. Like, I am who I am. Everybody is going to deal with it because there's no way I'm changing for anybody. So Bobby Roode's just going to have to get used to it. And we do know that they are going to face off next week. Bobby Roode versus No Way Jose, which should be an interesting match.
Which is really, I'm really excited for that because unfortunately, I do think Bobby is going to be getting cheered a lot in that match, and I think that that's a mistake on NXT's part, putting all these fresh new, before they even step in the ring, faces up against your young up-and-coming babyface in No Way Jose, unless the plan is for Jose to turn heel, but that I think would be playing with fire a little bit. I won't necessarily say it would be a mistake, but it would be risky for sure.
It's funny, Ashton, because, and maybe this is me making a reach here, and I apologize, but our whole preceding discussion about Ember Moon and the finisher and all that, I think Bobby Roode can work a mic and he could be a great heel, but I'm hoping that people aren't just so caught up in here and cheering him, which they shouldn't be doing in the first place if he is a heel, because of the theme song. Maybe that theme song was too good because it's already gotten like the
Dude, it's weird because during Nakamura's entrance, while Nakamura was making his entrance tonight for his match, and then after he won and his music started playing, it made me really think, like, how over really is Nakamura versus how over is his theme song? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I could totally understand that quandary arising because I
mean, I guess if it translates to ticket sales and T-shirt sales, he actually is over, and we knew that with like Daniel Bryan, where like for a brief period of time he was like outselling Cena in merch and stuff. But with a lot of these guys, I really do have to wonder just how over the performer is compared to whether it's their entrance or their finisher or whatever.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, it's revealed CFO Money has been getting like the biggest pops of them all because people like the themes more than the performers. And yeah, I really like.
Hard to break the habit, but it's not CFO Money; it's CFOs. We need to get that right. They actually did a video and they talked about their name and stuff.
Okay, well, CFOs. like it's very interesting that they could be the most over entity in the WWE because of the themes. But yeah, it's funny that arose for you with Nakamura, whereas for me, like Bobby Roode, because that theme is caught on like wildfire and with good reason. It's an excellent fucking theme. Nobody's trying to deny that. But he is supposed to be a heel. I'm supposed to hate him. Now, of course, me specifically, I'm not going to hate him because I'm a horrible person, and whatever he's planning to do to the NXT arena, I want it to happen. Screw the low-paying families, either find a way or make one. I don't know what to tell you. But in all seriousness, like, how is he supposed to be a villain, especially for a guy like No Way Jose? And just to answer something that you said, just offhandedly, like, oh, the plan might be to turn No Way Jose heel. I think that's a terrible idea. I hope they don't do that because I think you have such a great baby face here that, yeah, I mean, he could own it. He could really transcend it, especially if he sheds that skin and becomes maybe a different kind of baby, character evolution in a nutshell. So I hope they don't just take it off the tracks. So, yeah, it's a precarious position because I don't see No Way Jose winning next week. And that's disappointing because to me, Aries and Rude, they already have that credibility. Everybody knows who they are. Everybody knows where they've come from. Not many people may know Andrade Cien Almas, and I'm being, serious about that. Not everybody watches wrestling to the saturation that you and I do and a lot of our listeners do.
Well, and even then, you and I have only ever seen, I don't think you've ever seen a La Sombra match before he became Andrade Cien Almas, did you?
No, and I was even getting ready to say, like, and even me, like, I've never seen him even compete as La Sombra, so.
Like, I actually went out of my way to find him, and I have only seen 2, and you've seen 0, so and you and I watch way more wrestling than the average WWE/NXT fan.
Oh, certainly. I mean, look, and I don't mean this as an insult because I was guilty of it for a long time, and only because of the glory of the internet, has been able to change. But I think, like, your backyard is your purview. You know what I mean? Like, your backyard is where your vision begins and ends. If I'm in North America, I'm probably going to watch predominantly North American stuff. If I'm in Japan, New Japan's probably going to be my hookup. So I don't know how many people watch. What was La Sombra? That was CMLL, right?
Yep.
Yeah, CMLL. I don't know how many people keep their finger on that pulse. I don't even know. And they got an amazing guy like Andrade Cien Almas in our ranks now. But that's why reorientation is so important and reestablishment. Like, it's okay. You're our property now. And that sounded so bad, but I think you get what I mean. Like, you're our talent now to work with. Let's reestablish you on our terms. And Bobby Roode and Austin Aries, they don't need that because they're already North American names, TNA and everything else at that. So it's a shame that these young guys like No Way Jose and Andrade that could really use the establishment and everything, they're almost being fed to the wood chipper of the established veterans. Kind of sucks.
Hello? Are you there, John?
Yeah, partner. I was waiting for you to say something to what I said. Did you hear me?
The last thing I heard you say was established veterans.
Oh, yeah, the wood chipper of established veterans, which I said I think sucks because I think that's antithetical to at least the spirit of NXT that you, me, and others fell in love with. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, we loved so much about NXT was guys like Biggie Langston and Bo Dallas having a chance to really grow as performers and shine as the guy in a brand, even if it was a small brand. And even when it was Neville and Sami Zayn, those were still at least characters that were unique to NXT. But then you got Kevin Owens, who literally was just Kevin Steen toned down from an 11 to maybe a 9. And then Finn Balor, who was literally just Prince Devitt. And then now then it was Samoa Joe and Nakamura, who were both known as Samoa Joe and Shinsuke Nakamura outside of the WWE. So, like, NXT has gradually gone from characters that were unique to it, to performers that weren't necessarily unique to it, but the characters were, to now neither performers nor the characters are unique to it anymore.
Exactly. And that's a regression that I'm not exactly favorable towards, but it is what it is. So, yeah, No Way Jose pretty much saying I'm going to keep being me, and Bobby Roode better watch out. So we're getting this match next week, and I actually hope No Way Jose wins because I think he could really use it, but we'll see what happens.
I hope he wins as well, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I highly doubt it as well. So let's move on. Up next, Ciampa and Gargano in the trainer's room. Basically, I mean, the trainer woman said that Ciampa should be good with a few more days of rest. He should be able to go and cleared. And Gargano lets it be known that they've got a tag match next week at the CWC Live finale.
Yeah, and Ciampa really seems like he's itching to get his hands on the Revival because he even asked questions, and the Revival, and Gargano has to just assure him, is like, look, we need to show Mr. Regal what we're about. Pretty much we need to earn our way back into that title picture, which is fair. Like, I like that. I like that just because these two guys really beat you down doesn't mean it's an automatic gimme for an NXT championship rematch. Like, I'm not going to emotionally console you with championship opportunities. You've still got to earn them.
Raw.
Exactly. Yeah, give him Mark Henry a U.S. title shot because you think he has more to prove. But, I like
Titus O'Neil a title shot because he interrupts Rusev sometimes.
Because he insulted me in front of my family, my feels. Oh, Titus, he spoke the truth, and that's why it cut so deep. But Gargano and Ciampa looking to win next week and then get back in the title hunt. They said, let's hit them where it hurts the most, and that would be taking the NXT Tag Team title. So I'm still rooting for Team DIY to do it, man. I think they're a great pairing. Really, I think we're in a no-lose situation if NXT books right, because either we're going to get these guys as NXT Tag Team champions, which would be amazing, or we don't, and Ciampa just flips his shit and beats the crap out of Gargano. Either way, I think we're sitting pretty here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I'm definitely curious to see who their opponents are going to be, though. That's going to be interesting. I wonder if they're going to do kind of like what they did tonight with Nice and Daivari and just kind of jam two guys that aren't in the CWC anymore together to face them.
Yeah, that's probably what they'll do, because if the whole thing is about Cruiserweight Classic competitors, which Gargano and Ciampa were two of them, no reason why their opposition wouldn't also be two Cruiserweight Classic competitors.
I don't know, Kendrick and Tajiri, two old-timers.
That would be really cool. That'd be a barn burner of a tag match. I could get into that.
It'd definitely be interesting. I'm looking forward to see who it ends up being, though. Then up next, we had another one of these, NXT new guys versus a former TNA veteran. Cien Almas versus Austin Aries. And this right here is the kind of match that I was asking for last week when we were talking so much about how we need more young guys versus veterans. But even then, Andrade Cien Almas seems like a young, but he's been wrestling for a really long time just as La Sombra in Mexico, not here.
Exactly. And again, I think where he's able to get a mulligan, so to speak, is, like I said earlier, I don't know how established he is in this neck of the woods, so to speak, whereas Austin Aries, like, he's already made his brand, you know what I mean? That's why everybody popped instantly the moment he walked through the door. Not a bad match, fun back and forth between these two. Andrade, I'll tell you, if they would give him some kind of discernible direction or program or something, I still think he should be heel, but he is exciting and fun in the ring, so maybe the babyface shtick has a bit more mileage than I gave it credit for. Maybe he just needs a better direction for it. But in the end, Andrade wasn't able to put it together, made one mistake, went for a springboard, got powerbombed, and then in a nice sequence of offense, Aries goes from the powerbomb to the last chancery. Almas taps out. Aries gets the win.
Yep. Austin Aries picks up the win yet again, and yet again we've got a relative newcomer to NXT losing to a former NXT employee. Or, I'm sorry, a former TNA employee.
Yep. That's the way the cookie crumbles in NXT these days, apparently.
But WWE complains about not having any Hispanic draws. They'll sign Alberto Del Rio for $1 million or however much they paid him. I don't know if you heard, but the original plan was for him to be with Paul Heyman and get pushed as a baby face. How'd that work out?
Yeah, that sounds like a fucking nightmare. Whoever thought of that idea, they need to be fired, preferably in front of their family, so they
Yeah,
can learn from his
that
mistakes.
was supposed to be the plan with, his big return when he beat Cena, and then he had Zeb Coulter. It wasn't supposed to be Zeb Coulter. It was supposed to be Paul Heyman.
How does it make any sense for Paul? No, no. You know what? Because having a discourse about it would give it more dignity than it deserves. But I will say this. I will say this because you brought up Del Rio. Obviously, I'm not favorable towards the guy. I know you're not either. I'm assuming most
Dude,
of our
it
listeners
doesn't really
are.
matter how we feel about the guy. He's on the way out. He is done in WWE.
I mean, he's done. And even if he wasn't done, what I was getting ready to say was I feel like Andrade has far more upside than Del Rio ever did. You know, I get that Del Rio is a big deal. I'm not
Dude,
trying to
so
take
does
away from
Jose.
Yeah, and so do oh my God, so does Jose. I think Jose, if we're really talking about the three of them, Jose comes in first only because I really do feel like he has got that magnetism about him and that crowd connection like that.
Yeah, and he's got the size too. He's 6'3".
Exactly. So he's definitely got the look. Andrade, I feel like he's got a better look than Del Rio, especially in the face. Like, and that's why he should be heel because Del Rio always used to do that cutesy shit. Like,
he's a handsome son of a bitch, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
exactly, and that's why we should all hate him because Del Rio always used to do that heel shtick, like that wink, like, "Oh, look how sophisticated I am." Bitch, Andrade could like wrestle circles around you, and like, look at that face. Like, that's the guy that can wine and dine your girlfriend, and then be like, we're gonna leave the show without you, and then I'd be like, "Oh, okay." I wasn't good enough for her anyway. Good on you, man. Peace. And then I go cry in a corner.
It's like that meme where it shows a picture of either like a big bulky dude or like just a chiseled, good-looking dude, and it says, "This guy walks up and smacks your girlfriend on the ass. What do you do?"
Absolutely nothing, my friend. Absolutely nothing. So yeah, I mean, I think the world again of Andrade and No Way Jose, and I'm glad Del Rio's on the way out because maybe now they'll look at Andrade, which I'd like to think they'd look at Andrade because he could totally tap into that market. With his history as La Sombra, people would be like, oh man, and especially if he becomes heel and becomes that like top heel kind of Hispanic star, I think he could fucking thrive. And Del Rio, and I'm not even like saying this to try and take the piss out of him any more than we already have. But Del Rio is an older guy. I'm not saying Andrade is like a 22 or 23. I think he's like 32 or 33. But I still think, Del Rio, isn't he like 37 or 38 at this
He's
point?
that old, honestly. I think he's in his late 20s. I know Del Rio's like 38 or something, but I don't think Andrade is that old. I think he's in his late 20s.
And, well, even more so then. Like wrestling, those years go by quick, and especially the best years of a person's career, unless you've got like a
Not even in his late 20s, brother. La Sombra, a.k.a. Andrade Cien Almas, is 26.
Okay, then I recant that statement. Fuck Del Rio. Let's really push the pedal to the metal here on Andrade. Yeah. He's even got the youth. I mean, Jesus. And that's the thing. The whole reason this discussion started, to bring it back full circle, you were mentioning Hispanic stars, how WWE is desperately looking for one, and yet one just jobbed to a TNA star. Like, here's the thing. WWE, it's frustrating, especially when Lucha Underground exists, because Lucha Underground, they're like the prodigy. They're like that family of three, and you don't explicitly say it to the neighbors because you don't want to come off as a bad parent, but Lucha Underground's the favorite. Like, of course you can do that, Lucha Underground. And then WWE, oh, God, no, I'm just gonna say it as I wanted to say it, and it's just gonna the dice will fall where they may. They're that child that you don't want to give up on, but you don't start a college fund for them or anything because it's not gonna matter. And then when they try, you just feel like that's good enough. And with WWE, I do feel like they're trying. They're trying to expand into China, which I appreciate. I commend them for that effort. Apparently, they've been trying with the Hispanic market, although, again, I don't really know if you'd call an effort like this, him jobbing to a TNA star and Andrade, trying. But they're clearly aware that there's a world outside of the U.S. and, more broadly, I guess, North America. And I appreciate that. But, you got to put the pieces in play. And, yeah, man, I'm just hoping.
Yeah, but the WWE connects with their Hispanic demographic about as well as Dana Brooke connects with her work punches.
Yeah, that was visceral, and I don't think there's anything I could add to that. So, unless there's anything else you want to say, we can move on.
Cena connects with his work punches. Good lord, they're awful. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's just like we keep on hearing these freaking reports like, oh, WWE wants a top Hispanic draw. They want to tap into the Hispanic market or the Mexican market or whatever the hell the report at that given time says. And they signed, and the thing is, it's so funny because we were so excited, like, oh, they're gonna make Kalisto into their next big masked star. He's gonna be the next Rey Mysterio. He's gonna sell all these masks for WWE, and we, that was kind of crushed because they signed Del Rio to this big, like 6 or 7 figure deal. And even now, or even when they did sign him, his first big feud was with who? Kalisto. So then it's like, oh man, they really are serious about pushing Kalisto. But then they played hot potato with the title, and then Kalisto got relegated to nothingness. And then he's just nothing now. Kalisto is getting bullied by Baron Corbin every week. Like, who cares? And now Del Rio's on his way out, so you don't have him anymore. Sin Cara just jobbed to Braun Strowman on Monday.
Yeah.
And it's like, what exactly are you actually trying to accomplish here, WWE? Because, if an outside observer were to come in and see what you're doing with your product, there's literally the last conclusion they would reach is, oh, clearly they're trying to appeal to the Hispanic market.
And that's what I think angers me too. And again, that's why I said the clear difference. Like, I don't have to give Lucha Underground pity points for trying, because 9 times out of 10 they hit the mark, and the 10th time they don't, it's usually like very nitpicky at best.
And the crazy thing about Lucha Underground is, like, their primary demographic is that Hispanic market that the WWE isn't hitting. So the worse WWE does at connecting with that demographic, the better for Lucha Underground.
Yeah. So by all means, keep alienating that audience, WWE. Seriously, because they'll happen.
Like, WWE has intentionally, unintentionally allowed Lucha Underground to carve a gigantic demographic out of the wrestling pie that WWE has been ignoring for decades now.
Yeah, and you know what? Bringing it back again, we look at a prospect like Andrade, and what angers me, and this is the last point I want to connect, and we can move on because you mentioned Del Rio again.
Oh, and by the way, before we do move on, I just wanted to throw this out there as well. No Way Jose is only 28. So even though he's a little older than Andrade, he's still under 30.
Exactly. And, the last point I wanted to make was what this whole obsession with Del Rio by WWE tells me, particularly Vince, because I actually do believe that report that he's really high on Del Rio. Like, I could easily conceive of that. It just tells me they don't want to try. Like, why try and build something for the Hispanic market when you can already tap into this already established, and that doesn't necessarily mean good or bad, but this already established commodity in Del Rio. And that kind of laziness, like, I just can't respect it. Especially because after the way, like, his negotiations went down with AAA and everything that Del Rio did, is his stock even that high anymore? Like, just build something new. And you look at a guy like Andrade, who I think is this huge upside, and yeah, it is just a match with Austin Aries, and maybe he will bounce back. But I think it's more what the law says. You go with the established, the familiar. And I get it. He's building in that feud with Hideo, and Hideo will more than likely win. But I'm just looking for Andrade to find something. So hopefully that something comes soon.
Yeah, like, my thing is, like, yeah, I get it that they're building up Aries to put over Hideo, but why did that have to be at the expense of Almas?
Exactly. Yeah, it didn't have to be. Not at all.
Why? Here's my thing. Why couldn't Almas have been Nakamura's opponent tonight and taken him to the freaking limit and have Steve Cutler be the one that jobs to Aries?
There you go. Yeah. I mean, stuff like that, man. Like, that's the NXT that I feel like I used to know. That whole scenario you just spelled out. Andrade taking Nakamura to the limit, absolutely. If we were still in the age where Neville was NXT champion, I feel like he would have faced Andrade by now in a non-title match, and it would have been like a 15-minute barn burner. And I'm just, again, huge upside, and you squander it. And it's not even, again, anything against Aries, but you've already proven your lot, dude. You can take it anywhere. Andrade, I think, needs this. He needs to find his footing here if he's really going to be what you and I believe he can be. So here's to hoping he finds it soon. But that's all I want to say about that.
Yep. All right. Now let's move on to our of the night. Sanity had another vignette. We still don't know who it is. Hopefully it's Tommy End, right?
Absolutely. Tommy End or Crazy Mary Dobson, two names I've been hearing. I think it's Tommy End, though, so I'm going to put my name in the Tommy End lot.
The Crazy Mary Dobson thing is a Brandon Best thing only. I don't know anyone else.
I heard it from somebody else other than Brandon, and then Brandon caught wind of it. Somebody else told me they thought Crazy Mary Dobson. So in Brandon's defense, it wasn't something he started up because I heard it somewhere else. I just can't remember who, but I know it wasn't him. So
I think that if that is an actual rumor, it's because the rumor of her being signed by WWE came out the same day or like within 24 hours of the first Sanity vignette airing. So people are like jumping to this conclusion, like, oh, they signed Mary Dobson and these vignettes start airing on the same day? Connection! But let's be real, it's the WWE, and they're going to give her a WWE gimmick, and they're not going to actually debut it until they have it refined. They're not just going to randomly throw it out there the first day they sign her.
That is true. I mean, yeah, so I think Tommy End is more likely. Plus, I think I did see him tweet out like his goodbyes and his gratitude to Evolve Pro Wrestling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that just seems like all telltale signs. Like,
I think what a lot of people don't take into account with the Crazy Mary Dobson thing is, like, yes, she is a very talented female wrestler, but she didn't, like massive follower. Like, Shinsuke Nakamura is a big deal. Like, he is the kind of guy who, with proper WWE writing and booking and stuff, could be a top 5 draw in the world. Crazy Mary Dobson, very talented, absolutely, but does she have like this massive fan following coming into NXT? No. What does that mean, and why am I talking about this? Because she's not going to be Sarah Dobson anymore in WWE. They are going to give her a new name that doesn't have Dobson in it. She's going to get an NXT name, just like what Andrade Cien Almas got, just like what Hideo Itami got, just like what Ember Moon got. They're going to give her a brand new name. They're probably going to give her either a new gimmick or no gimmick, and she's going to be generic and job for a while until they decide to push her. And they aren't going to debut her for another few weeks, if not months. So this whole Sanity thing, to me, the fact that this first Sanity vignette happened on the day or within 24 hours of Crazy Mary Dobson signing with WWE is the biggest sign that it's not her.
Right. Because there's just no precedent. There's just no precedent of NXT jumping the gun like that. But conversely, though, let me ask you, and you and I agree it is Tommy End. If it is Tommy End, which I can't conceive who else it would be, like, how do you think these vignettes will match up? Do you think it's going to be a great debut? Are you looking forward to it? I mean, what are your expectations?
I'm dying to see it, man. Because the reports of Tommy End being signed happened a few months ago. Even that wasn't like something that happened super recently. Like, that's been going out. That's been out there for a while now, and he's been finishing up his indie dates. And I think his I want to say, I don't remember exactly who it was, but I read that someone's indie dates finish up on September 25th. I wish I remembered who it was. It might have been Tommy End. It might have been someone else in the CWC. I don't remember, sadly. But regardless, he's been, I mean, we know he was in Bola. Tommy End was in Bola, and that just happened this past weekend. So, he's still finishing up his indie dates. I'm assuming they're running these Sanity teasers because he's got that character ironed out already with NXT. That might even be his name. Sanity might be his name in NXT.
Right. Yeah, I never thought of that.
That's cool by me, and I'm really curious to see if he gets sort of the green light push right off the bat, or if he's going to be kind of like an Andrade Cien Almas where he wins some, he loses some. He's just kind of a new character to add to the mix of the NXT mid card.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I am hoping for. I'm hoping Tommy End, and I don't think he will be because he got all these vignettes. But, like, that just brings to mind another talent. Where the hell is Oney Lorcan? Like, he beat Ty Dillinger and he hasn't showed up anywhere. Formerly Biff Busick, and, like, I think that's a guy with a huge upside, so hopefully he shows up more. But, yeah, Tommy End, I'm loving the vignettes. And, again, I think I said this last week on NXT TWitWoW. They're the kind of vignettes where I don't just want a match, you know what I mean? Like, I'd love, and again, this just seems to me either like old school NXT or maybe just John's fantasy land of pro wrestling.
There are a bunch of different types of vignettes that NXT does. Like, they do like the Ember Moon style vignettes where there's someone like dictating to you what this person's all about, who they are, that kind of stuff, and then telling you when they're going to show up. And then they have sort of the just showing you like images of the person and maybe like them wrestling in Evolve or New Japan or wherever and being like, hey, this person's coming soon. And then there's this other style of vignette like this that's much more reminiscent of like what we got for Solomon Crow prior to his debut, where you really don't know, although you kind of have an idea, but you really don't know. And then they show up and they kind of tell you about themselves and then they kick someone's ass and then they're introduced.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love if they did something a bit different than the standard introductory squash match, maybe like Tommy End, if this is a heel gimmick, which it gives off a heel vibe to me, would jump somebody. I would like somebody of higher value. Again, in my fantasy booking, it'd be Nakamura. Doesn't mean he's going to win the NXT Championship. Just would love like a talent like this to really make a statement. We'll see how it's handled. But yeah, I'm loving the vignettes, and sooner or later, we're going to get some answers.
Well, I mean, who's somebody that is considered beloved by the NXT fans?
Ty Dillinger immediately
other than
comes to
Nakamura. Ty would be perfect. Yes. Tommy End, Sanity, whatever you want to call him, first match against Ty Dillinger.
Which kind of sucks for Dillinger fans, because I hope Dillinger isn't on this win streak recently. Like, he's won 2 matches straight, only to lose to Sanity, so he looks credible.
He's totally, I mean, in NXT Canada, he's totally beating Nakamura for the title.
Well, here's to hoping, man. Here's to hoping.
Oh my God, you bought right into that. Come on, you got to push back a little.
No, I refuse.
Okay. Up next was our final match, our main event of the evening. Steve Cutler versus Shinsuke Nakamura with Samoa Joe on commentary.
Yeah. You know, again, like part of me wants to be annoyed that this is a thing. Because last week, and again, I'm really convinced it was last week on NXT 12. If not, latest was 2 weeks ago. You have him in this match against this other new guy whose name I honestly forget, and I apologize for that. And he wins with like the fisherman Michinoku style, you know, kind of slam, you know, looking all cool.
Emerald Flosion, wasn't it?
Like, I guess an Emerald Flosion. I know commentary didn't use that term. I think the whole combination I got actually came from Tom Phillips. And yeah, I'm thinking, okay, so we're going to slowly build this up. And I even gave Cutler credit. Like, I'm glad that we have a guy that served in the Army, but that doesn't preclude him from being a dick. Like, okay, you had military service, but you're still kind of a dick, dude. You know, you're still being a jackass to everybody. And I'm like, this could be interesting. Let's just take it nice and slow because, you know, he's been jobbing all this time. And then immediately he gets the one win against a nobody. And then it's just, oh, let's feed him to Nakamura. Like, we get it. Nakamura is NXT champ. And I love Nakamura to death. It's not him. It's the presentation. We know how good he is. If he wasn't that good, he wouldn't be NXT champion. So why are you feeding him these small fries in the main event, especially with Joe watching? Like, if you're going to continue the whole Joe narrative, you could at least give Nakamura maybe a semi-competent opponent. Like, I know he's already beaten a Buddy Murphy, but I'd rather have seen that match again, where Buddy Murphy could have given at least a little bit of a fight than Steve Cutler, who's just trying to find his footing. Like,
I mean, why not just put Nakamura against the CWC guy? You've been using him for everything else.
Why? You know what match I would have loved, and everybody's been clamoring for it, but I guess that doesn't make sense.
Nakamura versus Kendrick.
Well, Kendrick would have been amazing. I was going to say another name, but my suggestion was stupid because he's already going to be on Raw. Thankfully, I was going to say Cedric Alexander. But yeah, again, they already scooped him up for Raw, so that wouldn't have worked.
That would have been so good. You're so right. And it doesn't matter if they've already been announced for Raw. We've already seen Kota Ibushi, and he's been announced for Raw, hasn't he?
I don't think he has, dude.
Oh.
I don't think
Arya Davari? Has Arya Davari been announced for Raw? I feel like he has.
No, maybe, but I didn't hear him announced for Raw either.
God damn it, my theory is falling apart.
And it's like, what's happening? This world, what's happening to me? But, you know, my point being, like, just going with my fantasy template, since I already said it, and we'll just go with it. It's our show. We'll do what we want. But, you know, Nakamura versus Cedric Alexander, like, I feel like that would have been perfect because it hits that sweet spot of, oh, well, Nakamura clearly has the advantage because, you know, Shinsuke Nakamura, but Cedric, like, he's a scrapper, and he won everybody's heart at the CWC, and Joe, the former NXT champion, like, give me an atmosphere. Because don't try and play me that this is a main event. Really, the main event is Joe is watching Nakamura.
More than anything,
What's that?
Nakamura versus Gargano.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm talking about right there. Matches like that. And you know, Joe, and it was interesting too, because even Joe on commentary, you're expecting him to breathe all this fire. He fades into the background because the few times things are fielded to him, and I'm not blaming Joe for this. I'm assuming it's happening for a reason. I don't freaking know. But he gives Nakamura his props, which, fine. I always think a heel should give their babyface that they're, you know, going against their props, because if they do defeat them, obviously that makes them look good. But Joe didn't seem to have, like, any of that fire. Like, oh, Shinsuke was good. He was the better man, but I'm still going to choke him out at the end of the day because that's my NXT championship. No, it's just, Shinsuke hits really hard, and I made some mistakes, and I hope to come back better. Like, what?
No, I love that, though, because that's the calm before the storm, dude. That is Samoa Joe's way of acting humble when what he's really doing is basically exploding on the inside.
So, okay, and I hope you're right, because if you are, that's fucking awesome. So you think he's just putting on this facade for everybody, and the moment he's healed up, like, he's going to beat Nakamura's ass, and then maybe cash in.
Playing possum in the best way.
Man, you know what? You saying that, I'll ease up a little bit on Joe, but that still doesn't forgive the central problem that we've been discussing, and that's these Nakamura matches. And see, this is why we wanted him called up, because I feel like this is going to be the Nakamura formula on NXT. Okay, you'll get appetizers on TV, but if you want real Shinsuke Nakamura matches, like really competitive matches, those will be for the takeovers. I mean, brilliant business plan, because it's Shinsuke Nakamura, and you should leave some of the imagination so the customers want to pay. But why not just put him on the main roster so we could do all that big stuff with other people? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, hey guys, we need an opponent for Brock. Oh, yeah, let's build up Kevin Owens. We'll do Kevin Owens versus Brock Lesnar, even though Kevin Owens is basically just the poor man's version of Brock Lesnar. Oh,
whoa! I don't know how this conversation got to be about Kevin Owens, and 9 times out of 10 I wouldn't mind. But damn. I'm actually looking forward to Owens Lesnar if that does happen.
Okay, I apologize. Kevin Owens is the upper middle class version of Brock Lesnar. Is that better?
My pride's still wounded, but I guess I have to accept it.
80% of Brock Lesnar with like 1,200% the actual work rate.
I think at the end that comes out to a compliment, so I'm just gonna say yes.
Oh my god.
Tentatively. Don't you
Kevin
Owens
does everything that Brock Lesnar does, but with better banter and more frequently, because he only shows up. Brock specifically is who I'm talking about now. Shows up once or, well, maybe like 4 to 5 times a year, if that.
Yeah, because Kevin Owens shows up every day because he's Universal Champion. But yeah, I mean, look,
this was never meant to be about Kevin Owens, but you got all offended and pissy, and I had to defend it.
Hey, look, his name came out of your mouth first. Okay, I was just responding.
Yeah, because I thought that we had already established that Kevin Owens was like the full-time Brock Lesnar.
Well, you know, I'm glad we revisited those waters and we've come to an understanding. But I think
But my whole point was that the WWE is scratching and clawing to find someone credible enough to take on Brock Lesnar when they have someone under their noses and refuse to call him up.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even know. I don't even know if I could trust WWE at this point, because if they're already keeping him on NXT and using him this way, I don't know. I'd like to think they're going to use him amazingly on the main roster, which is why we've wanted it so bad. But I don't even know anymore, because I'm already not really liking the direction of Shinsuke. I think it's not necessarily too dominant, but again, it's like appetizers on TV.
Like, I feel like they're treating him. How do I explain this? Fish in this medium-sized pond we call NXT, treating him like a big fish. They aren't really treating him like the attraction that he really needs to be treated as, because this is one of the most charismatic human beings anyone is ever going to lay their eyes on, and here he is wrestling a jobber on NXT television.
Yeah. That's a sad state of affairs. And, you know, Nakamura gets the win, as to be expected. I feel like, what, Steve Cutler maybe got like a right hand in, maybe a chop. I don't even freaking know. And, yeah, I mean, Nakamura puts him down with ease. Joe and him lock eyes. Joe walks off. And I'm just sitting here thinking, well, what exactly was progressed? I mean, I get that a rematch is coming between Joe Nakamura. And I think Joe, they're still like having him got to heal from injuries, which was established last week. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I get that we're in the era of strong style. Where's the juice? Like, I think it needs some juice to really get going. So, and Steve Cutler ain't going to provide it. So that's where we're at. Nakamura wins. And this really felt no different from the closing of last week, except Nakamura wrestled for a few minutes. That really, to me, was the biggest difference.
Yeah, I kind of feel like NXT is the Naruto Brown's Legend of Korra. Like, both of them are really good shows, but Naruto just has so much filler.
Yes.
And Legend of Korra is at a freaking breakneck pace from beginning to end with barely any filler at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with that analogy wholeheartedly. And, NXT is the kind of show that when it's great, it's really fucking great. And this is a fun episode.
Does that or does that not fit with the Naruto narrative as well?
And that fits. Yeah, absolutely, that fits. But the difference is, like, on episodes like this, and it wasn't a bad episode, it was fun. But when you're really stripping away the layers, you're kind of asking, well, what do they bring into the fight? Nothing happened. And that's where we're left. So that was NXT.
By the way, can I also add, I hate that people are referring to Nakamura as Shin now.
Oh. Have you heard commentary from him or such, or what do you mean by people? Like, because I don't know.
Referred to him as Shin in his interview, and Samoa Joe referred to him as Shin on commentary. So it's not just one person; it's multiple people now referring to him as Shin, and it's thing that I think I've ever heard or seen done to Nakamura ever.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. Packaging's in a weird state now he's Shin apparently, which that's caught on to me now, and that's probably going to spread, much like the madness of the mispronunciations of Gargano and Ciampa's names drove us mad. And I just call up Nakamura already, but he's NXT champion. He's got to drop it first. So I don't know how they're going to resolve this, but a resolution's got to come soon. For now, though, Nakamura is still rocking on as the NXT champion. So anything else you want to say about this?
No.
All right. Next segment, high spots and low shots. You know what? My low shot, who is going to be my low shot? I think my low shot's going to be the team of Arya Daivari and Tony Nese. Really impressive outing. I really like both guys, but they lost to TM 6-1. I feel like, you're out of the Cruiserweight Classic. This could have been a chance to really make a splash and show people, hey, this is what we have to offer. And you couldn't get the W, so they're my low shot.
All right, that's understandable. My low shot, as if it wasn't obvious enough already, Steve Cutler, because he's supposed to be, I don't know, a thing now. He went from being a regular jobber to now almost like kind of trying to get like the Aiden English treatment, where like suddenly he has a character and wins occasional matches and is actually doing stuff, but he still just feels like a jobber at the end of the day.
Exactly. So I completely
agree. Especially when in his second match with this repackaging, you put him against the champion of your company and he gets squashed, basically.
Yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I completely agree. It's probably the best low shot of the night from where I sit. My high spot, just put the smile back on my face after that somewhat depressing discussion about Nakamura and just NXT standing. I'm going to go with Ember Moon. First appearance on NXT, TV. Post Brooklyn 2. Yeah, who did you think I was going to take? So, but yeah, Ember Moon winning again, and that sigh was just cherry on top of the sundae. So who's going to be your high spot now? I'm curious.
I don't even know anymore. You ruined my day.
Hey, dude, I've given you like Ty Dillinger like 2 weeks in a row. You really didn't think I was going to take Ember Moon.
I know, but he wasn't even on this show.
Yeah, well, whose fault is that? Try harder.
NXT's writers? Duh.
Well, you could write to those writers and be like, hey, I really like what you're doing, Ty Dillinger. Keep it up. Hugs and sunshine.
But I hate what they're doing with Ty Dillinger. He's not winning nearly enough.
Give it time.
Okay, my high spot is going to be Ciampa and Gargano because Ciampa is cleared and they're going to be in the 2-hour CWC live thing next week. And based on this episode of NXT, the 2-hour live CWC finale is more important than NXT. So good job, Ciampa and Gargano.
Hey, I love that. And you're so right, too, about the importance of the CWC compared to NXT. That is so sad. But with that said, is there any concluding remarks you have about NXT tonight?
NXT is officially a cuck.
Well, there you go. All right, guys. This has been NXT. This has been TWitWoW. The best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my co-worker and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment, subscribe, and like the video. You know, when you like the video, shows up in the top of the search results. So give a thumbs up to this video. Partner, what question do you have for our subscribers on this episode of NXT here?
Continuing on the trend of the CWC live finale being more important than NXT, who do you think Ciampa and Gargano's opponents are going to be in that show?
I really like that question. All right, guys, get your musings started down in the comments. And tell us who you think the opponents are going to be. You guys already know all the stuff to check out and do thanks to the wonderful backgrounds my co-worker and commentary here makes. What you may not know is to submit questions for our third Q&A. We do Q&As at the last Friday of every month. The last Q&A we did was exceptional, over double the questions of the inaugural Q&A. We were very pleased with the output. So keep submitting your questions to either Ashton or myself. You have a multitude of mediums to do it with. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, our subreddit. I mean, you guys know them all. Everybody's permitted up to 5 questions per Q&A. That could be, you know, all 5 to Ashton, all 5 to me, all 5 to both of us. You could divvy it up, and it could be about any topic, you know, wrestling, music, entertainment, like anything you guys want to ask, feel free to. And speaking of the CWC, we will be giving our coverage of the latest episode tomorrow night, so you guys have that to look forward to. And until then, tune in and peace out.